In April 19th, 1874, a young man was born named Booker DeWitt, born to a Native American mother and a Dutch father. By the age of 16, he was drafted into the US Army, being a member of the 7th Cavalry Regiment. With this position, he took part in the war against the Lakota people on December 29, 1890. It all started when the US government kept breaking treaties with the Lakota people, often not providing rations at the right time, lack of funding, and many more. But it all started getting worse when a movement called the Ghost Dance was created among the tribe. It was a spiritual revival movement asking for the restoration of the native life as it once was before US modernized it. What to them was just a tradition, but to the US it looked more like a sign of rebellion. Hence the army was dispatched. But soon it turned chaotic when the leader of the Lakota people was killed during a simple confrontation regarding the Ghost Dance, which began a war known as the Wounded Knee Massacre, resulting in deaths close to 300, if not more, of the Lakota tribe people. He was also accompanied by Cornelius Slade, or Captain Slade as he is referred to, and has made great connection with him ever since, often having Slade refer to him as Corporal DeWitt. During this time, Booker himself was accused by one of his comrades of having a Native American background because of his mother. To prove him wrong, he decided to dodge Lakota teepees, which were these hut-like homes, killing several innocent lives, mostly women and children. This gave him the nickname White Injun and a Medal of Honor for his actions, ultimately ranking him as the staff sergeant in the army. But all this came at the cost. Despite being pleased and respected amongst his comrades, he felt shame and guilty for doing such actions against innocent lives, just to prove his comrades wrong about his background. So he turned to baptism, a rite in Christianity where a person symbolically dies to their old self and is reborn spiritually, washed clean of their past sins. It marks a commitment to live under God's guidance from that point forward. The initiative was taken by Father Whitting, who would also play an important role in his life later on. He was ready to take it, to finally be free from his guilt and move on in life, until the last second where he bailed out.
And be born again in the blood of the Lamb. Jesus, wash this man clean. Father, make him born again. Lord,
stop it!
What are you doing?
Get off me! Get off!
Son!
According to him at that moment, a simple dunk in the water isn't going to change anything about him. He will still remain guilty of his actions, and he thinks that it's a waste of time and effort for him. But this simple decision created a split in reality, a multiverse split, so to speak, where another version of Booker accepted the baptism, renouncing his sins of the past and his past identity, now under the new identity and a new vision in mind. Zachary Hale Colmstock. This is the beginning of the Bioshock Infinite multiverse, and this is the full story of the Bioshock franchise.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question.
What is the difference between a man and a parasite? A man builds, a parasite asks, where's my share?
One man goes into the waters of baptism, a different man comes out, born again. But who is that man who lies submerged?
This is not your daughter. Do you understand? Her name is Eleanor, and she is mine.
To build a city at the bottom of the sea, insanity. But where else could we be free from the clutching hand of the parasites?
And then the Archangel showed me lighter than air.
Time rots everything, Booker. Even hope. Do you think it's possible to redeem the kind of things that we've done? Booker, are you afraid of God?
Booker DeWitt got married to his wife, Annabelle DeWitt, and they had a daughter, but Annabelle didn't survive during the delivery due to some complications. She was nicknamed Anna amongst her friends and Booker, which made him to name their daughter Anna in remembrance of her. But soon, because of depression and the trauma of the Wounded Knee massacre, he went on a gambling addiction, losing money at every slot and poker game, to a point where his business isn't enough to cover his debt. He is only surviving because of his daughter, whom he would do anything to keep her alive and fed. But what if all options are lost? What if your only option is to give her up to be free again from your debts? That's exactly what happened when a man came knocking on his office door. Robert Lutez, he identifies himself, and proposes an offer.
DeWitt, time is running short. Bring us the girl, and wipe away the debt.
Booker hesitates slightly at this notion, but overwhelmed by sorrow and grief, he gives up Anna to Robert, which should absolve his debts.
What choice do I have? The debt's paid. Mr. Colmstock washes you of all your sins.
On the other hand, Colmstock became extremely religious in his ways, even becoming a well-known preacher amongst his followers and all of America, to a point where he started getting support from the US government itself. Captain Slate, sometime after the war, alongside Booker DeWitt, decided to become a strong follower of Colmstock and his ideologies. Sometime later, he meets Rosalind Lutez, a genius physicist who was working on quantum atoms being suspended indefinitely, which would eventually be the main pillar in the creation of Columbia during this discovery. She also discovered an atom being manipulated by someone else from another dimension, whom she recognizes as the male version of herself, Robert Lutez. Eventually, they would communicate this way by vibrating the atom to emit a Morse code, sharing their discoveries and finding ways to connect to the dimension together, thus creating a tear, an opening to another dimension, allowing you to step through anytime, anywhere, at your own will. Labeled as the Lutez field, was one of the biggest discoveries for Columbia as a whole. With this discovery, Colmstock decided to show this to a businessman and inventor, Jeremiah Fink, who used this technology to invent various vigors, which are these enhancements that give you any ability that you like, depending on several factors, and package these in a nice bottle for a friendly advertisement. This ultimately made Colmstock a messiah amongst the people, making him lose touch with his old self. While Jeremiah was using the tears to make more tears, he just so happened to get in touch with Dr. Yi Suchong, a scientist from another dimension who was experimenting with a substance called Adam and Big Daddies, whom I'll get into later on. But through the help of Suchong, he designed several massive mechanical machines from human live organs, only stripping away their thoughts and feelings and putting it in the form of animals. He designed many of them, but the one that was closest to perfection was Songbird, initially designed in order to understand how imprinting on a particular person works on creatures. The initial first prototype and a few more were all failures. Hence, they were just left to rot at his storage warehouse, along with all the other failed experiments. After a few years from then, while looking through the years into the future, he and Rosalind Lutez found the only way that they could fulfill Colmstock's legacy and dream is by finding an heir, a worthy successor. Though Colmstock was married, his wife couldn't bear any children, and with the continuous use of tears, it made his aging rapidly fast, looking almost 80 years old at just 33. So he had to find someone fast before he passes away. That's where they found someone, a newborn baby in the hands of Booker DeWitt. After handing over Anna to Robert Lutez, He regretted his decision and soon ran back to search for Robert. That's where he found him, handing the baby over to Comstock while ordering Rosalind to close the chair before Booker succeeds in taking her away. This is where they first meet face to face. Both of the same age, but both of different looks. They don't recognize each other. Only the Lutez twins know that they both are the same person. As both fight for Anna, the twins succeed in closing the portal, but at the cost of one of Anna's fingers being severed in the process. It isn't clear what happens for the next few years, but this made the situation even worse than how it was before. Though Comstock really loves Anna, his wife doesn't approve of this, as she assumes that this was Rosalind's child through Comstock, and since she was persistent in not letting Anna be in the same roof as hers, Comstock constructed a tall tower called the Monument Island Tower to keep her there and raise her. But it did just serve as her home, but also an experiment lab. Because of the amount of free time she possessed, she learned a lot of useful things like picking a lock, knowing the coordinates, and many more that aren't explicitly stated in the voxophones and documentations. And every area of her so-called house was one-way mirror to observe her behavior when needed. Because of one of her fingers being in another dimension than she is, this gives her the ability to create tears and open some to other dimensions at her own will. Seeing this, Comstock decided to build siphons inside her tower, so he could make better use of her power in both research and the betterment of Columbia. This of course made him even older and developed diseases like cancer, but it did reveal to him about something that is devastating to his legacy. Booker DeWitt coming back to take back what is his. This haunted Comstock for days, weeks, and possibly even months. So to prevent this from ever happening, he decided to preach to the people of the coming of false shepherd and be ready to repel him should he ever set foot in Columbia, even arming Anna, who he now calls Elizabeth, to protect herself from this false prophet. It is clear that he doesn't exactly know when will all this happen, but he isn't willing to take any risks for it. It is at this point where one of the prototypes of Songbird made a getaway from Jeremiah's lab and just crashed right into her tower, cutting the oxygen supply and making it slowly suffocate to death. Feeling pity, seeing how this large creature was, Elizabeth decided to help it by plugging the oxygen pipe back in. This caused the imprint to naturally happen, and since then, Songbird was drawn to Elizabeth, making it another protective barrier between Elizabeth and the real world around her. At the same time, his wife, Lady Comstock, was getting very annoyed about Elizabeth, how the truth of her origins is kept from the whole public, and how everyone assumes that it's her child and not something or someone else's. It's one thing to get angry that the child isn't yours, but another when the whole world assumes that it's yours. Frustrated by this, in 1895, she was planning to reveal the truth of this to Columbia, so they could not only stop talking about this to her, but also know what kind of a prophet Comstock really is. Unfortunately, this came at the cost, where Comstock got to know of this and instead of confronting her with the truth, decided to murder her cold-blooded, and frame their maid Daisy Fitzroy for it. This soon made Daisy angry that the action she didn't take resulted in consequences affecting her. Thus, she quit being a maid and formed a revolutionary group known as the Vox Populi, Latin for Voice of the People. First beginning as a protest group and a confederation of working-class citizens and oppressed groups because of the amount of racism casually promoted by the people of Columbia and Comstock himself. But as it became more organized, the members grew more militant, even rivaling that of Comstock's army. Eventually, she was captured and interrogated by several scientists, with one of them being so interested in her intellect that he began doubting what Comstock's philosophy stood on. But even then, despite helping Daisy escape, she ends him, and they return back to the shadows for an even stronger army that would one day take down Comstock. Driven underground by the Comstock and his fellow followers' repulsive measures, whom we shall now call founders, the movement eventually abandoned its peaceful tactics. in favor of retaliatory violence against the founders and their potential supporters. But in 1901, in Peking, China, there was a rebellion that was taking place known as the Boxer Rebellion, initiated because of the westernization of China and how many foreigners are arriving and changing their beliefs and rituals, holding several Americans and other nationals hostage because of this. Colmstock saw this as an issue and ordered Columbia to open fire against the Chinese and free the hostages, with Captain Slade leading the party to war and emerging victorious at the cost of his eye, which he now decides to cover with the Pinkerton badge to represent his loyalty to the army. Yet despite all this heroic act, the US saw Columbia as a floating warship and something that could go awry if things don't go as planned. Hence the US stopped funding Columbia and ordered Comstock to stand down. Angered by this, in the following year, he led the Union into Columbia and made it disappear into the sky, never to be seen again by anyone else. Soon after, the Lutece twins looked in the future and saw what Comstock would eventually become and what Elizabeth would also become because of him. Burdened by the guilt after learning this, they decided to bring Elizabeth back to her original universe and prevent this from ever happening. One by one, they started sending Booker of various other universes to bring Elizabeth back to safety, but all of them failed, one way or another. Some of the Bookers died in vain, while others died a heroic death. But nonetheless, this soon came to Comstock's attention for both the Lutece plans and the several Bookers' arrival. He then ordered Jeremiah Fink to sabotage the contraption. This ended up killing them physically, but not spiritually, as this would also give them the ability to exist in any part of the universe at their own will, appearing whenever and wherever they pleased to. Meanwhile, Captain Slade was also betrayed by Comstock because during his ceremonies he claimed that he led the party to victory and falsified his valor achievements, which was all achieved by Slade himself. This made Slade a strong hater against Comstock and even confronted him about it, but Comstock outright denied his involvement in the war. Hence, to even it out, Slade decided to lend the Vox Populi a hand with his few members to join forces and take down Comstock once the opportunity arises. The death of the Lutece twins didn't stop there. They decided to continue on with their works on their efforts to find the one Booker who is capable enough to take down Comstock and everything else in Columbia. That's where they find the true Booker, the one whom the girl was originally taken, and offered him a chance. Bring us the girl and wipe away debts. The same girl as before, but a completely different context and role it plays now, moving from a desperate act to a heroic one. We then see Booker with the twins on a boat. They provide him with the guidance to reach Columbia, but they are disguised, so no one can tell that it's them. Once we get off and reach Columbia through a tube that transported us there, we see how brainwashed the people are in this society, still referring to Comstock as their messiah, the one who can forgive your sins and make you holy and happy. While going through the shrine, which serves as the entrance and introduction to Columbia, we encounter several preachers, all guiding us through a path, and just at the entrance, we see Father Whiting, the same father who once was in charge of baptizing us earlier, now standing as the guardian at the gate of Columbia, separating what's from the outside world, or referred to this universe as the Sodom below, and the Garden of Eden, which is Columbia. After nearly being drowned and exploring more of the shrine, we encounter Columbia. It does look how it claims to be, a land of dreams, with everything so bright and bustling with joy. Everyone around seems to be in a jolly mood, not caring of anything in the world. As we walk through, we pass through an announcement, giving us a false reality that Comstock and Lady Comstock bore a child to continue on their legacy. This, of course, isn't known to Booker, as it has been quite a while since all this has happened, and he knows that it's his task to bring Elizabeth to the mystery man and clear off his debts. At least that's all he knows for now. As we explore Columbia, we meet the Lutece twins face to face, playing games with us on our journey. Booker doesn't recognize them during these stages, as according to him, he's never met them. There are signs warning of the people of the false prophet, who bear the initials of AD in his hand, which just so happens to be Booker himself. The initials AD stands for Annabel David, or Anna for short. This was supposed to be a permanent reminder to Booker, for whom he has to live and do his work to get back. We also get the first taste of vigors, which will also play a pivotal role in aiding us during combat and assessing certain areas that we normally couldn't. Just ahead, we receive a letter from a young boy. We don't really know who the sender is, but wants us not to pick number 77 at the raffle, which is just up ahead, hosted by none other than Jeremiah Fink. And of course, the number we pick is 77, because nothing goes in our way. Unsurprisingly, we did win the raffle, but the prize is to hit a couple with a ball which holds your winning number. And it's here where you can tell that the whole city is filled with racism. Even a relationship with a person who isn't white is considered a punishable offense, and the more we go down, the worse we see the symptoms. Just as we're about to throw the ball, we are stopped by the guards who recognize the sign in our hand, immediately labeling us as a false prophet, and soon it turns from a peaceful city stroll to a war zone, fighting against waves of police and troopers, and even worse, we have boss fights against people who are consumed by their vigors, becoming the ideal embodiment of them. It is an interesting twist, as in Bioshock, boss battles are usually people who have mastered the ability to be the best at it, but not the ideal embodiment of it. This can be both a positive and a negative, since Infinite has so many changes both visually and mechanically that it just makes it stand out from the other two for the sake of it. It's around this point where Booker finds out the residing place of Elizabeth and makes his objective to reach there before getting killed. This in return alerted Colmstock, and this is his first warning to Booker.
I know why you've come, false shepherd. I see every sin that blackens your soul. Wounded knee, the Pinkertons, the drinking, the gambling, and of course, Anna. And now, to repay a debt, you've come from my land. But not all debts can be repaid, Booker.
You don't know me, pal.
Prophecy is my business, Mr. DeWitt. As blood is yours. Do you know why these men will die for me? Because I have seen their future in the glory, and hence they are content. What brought you to Columbia, Booker? Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt? This will end in blood, DeWitt. Then again, it always does with you, doesn't it? It always ends in blood. You've come to lead my lamb astray, but thy crook is bent and thy path is twisted. Go back to the Sodom from which you came.
This triggers something in Booker as he starts bleeding through the nose, but he doesn't worry about it as he is very close to the monument. Once we reach the monument, we see that it's been tracking and studying Elizabeth ever since they got her here. From their daily activities to learning some skills, all are being noted and documented to a great extent because of what she is capable of doing. Eventually, we break into her home, so to say, and by this interaction, it's clear that she has no contact with the outside world and only had everything in this home as her only source of entertainment, having to confirm that you are a real human and not some illusion that she's dreaming of. But Booker's intuition triggered an alarm which plays a melody to alert Songbird to stop Booker by any means necessary, which leads to the tower getting a lot of damage, while Elizabeth is shocked to know that her whole life was being watched by people she didn't even know were doing so. With that, we barely make an escape and land onto a beach. We enter a dream sequence with Booker, where a man yells at bringing a girl to him to clear his doubt. This we know as Robert, as we discussed, but it is unknown to Booker at the moment. As he opens, he shouts his daughter's name, thinking that he has been taken by him, only to be awakened by Elizabeth, whom he mistakes again as Anna. Elizabeth gets distracted by the music and asks to be a part of it, while Booker rests for some time, regaining his conscience and strength to continue forward. After finding Elizabeth and convincing her that they would be going to Paris, thanks to his observation for her obsession with Paris while exploring the monument, this convinces Elizabeth to go with Booker to the First Lady, the only ship in all of Columbia that allows us to travel anywhere in the world. Up until this point, Elizabeth has never seen violence in her life, so the sudden ambush at the ticket booth caught her off guard, with the added trauma of seeing Booker mercilessly kill them. This causes Elizabeth to fear Booker for a while, till she comes to terms that there was nothing else that could have been done. So to help us out, she is willing to source weapons and assaults for Vegas whenever she can. Once on the First Lady, we set the coordinates. But that doesn't fool Elizabeth, as the coordinates pointed to New York, not Paris. This causes Elizabeth to question us, but since we paid no attention, she knocks us out, only for us to wake up to the ship being captured by the Vox Populi. Now with this hostile takeover, they aren't all that bad initially, Daisy Fitzroy even offering to lend the ship back as long as Booker gets in touch with one of the weapons outlet in Jeremiah Fink's territory. While at the same time, we have to work on convincing Elizabeth that we are on her side and not against. The gun store is owned by Chen Lin, who is a Chinese immigrant in Colombia. He too was fed up at the racial discrimination that the white people had on him, but he was only treated with respect to some extent because of his supply of weapons to Jeremiah Fink and his associates. But with growing tensions, he decided to side with Vox Populi, secretly providing them with weapons as well. This seems to have caught up with them, as there are wanted posters around Fink Industries to capture Chen for his involvement with the Vox Populi. And when we search for him at the gun store, only his wife is present, who claims that he was last seen at the theater. And unfortunately for us, he sadly passed away due to the torture. This means canonically we failed the mission. But Elizabeth, having the power to open tears to other dimensions, saw a dimension where Chen was still alive and takes us there.
Ed is dead, Elizabeth.
Dead? It's dead.
What? The hell did...
I see heads.
And I see tails.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Why are you following us? Who sent you? Comstock? What do you want?
What do you see here, from this angle?
Dead.
Listen.
And that angle?
Alive.
Booker. Chen Lin.
This is becoming...
The body's gone.
It was never here.
It's another Columbia.
A different Columbia.
The same coin.
a different perspective.
Heads.
Tails.
Dead.
Alive.
We have to go through to this other Columbia, but
It's like riding a bicycle.
One never really forgets.
One just needs the courage to climb aboard.
if we go into this town, I don't think I'll be able to bring us back. Are you sure you're ready?
Okay, open it.
In this alternate universe, the rebellion was still active and on full swing, with cells filled with rioters. But this is where we also see something strange. The gods who we killed on the way are also alive, but since they were killed in another universe, they are suffering from an internal conflict. The mind is battling between the state of being dead or alive, making it impossible for them to coexist without losing sanity. This only happens when their counterpart dies, so you rarely get to see this happen. We meet Shen Lin, but he could neither see us nor his equipment, for they have been seized by the authorities. The only reason he's been spared is because of his wife, who is still Miss Lin, but from a different background, whose brother is a part of the Founding Fathers community, whom we know from the start are the powerful community founded by Colmstock. Because of the missing equipment and him being dead in a parallel universe, his conscience is messed up, often talking to himself and making himself think that there are machines all around. So we head to the impound, which is located at the lower level than Finktown, and it's way much worse than what was up above. Streets riddled with trash and people begging for some cash to go to the doctor. or even bring a doctor from above to here, as there are none present. It seems this Columbia represents almost every country at the present, where they do their best to show the good side of the country while hiding the bad side. After reaching the impound, we find the machines only to realize that it's too large to carry it back to the weapon shop, but another tier appears, showing the machines aren't there, which technically mean they should be back at the shop. So both of them step into this tier and make that a reality. In this version, the revolution has begun and takes full swing, with rioters killing every law enforcers they meet on the way. Some of the rioters recognize you and call you a hero, to your surprise. A huge poster hangs declaring you as the hero of this revolution. Booker slowly recalls how it happens and he starts to bleed, mainly because now he has a dead version of himself in this universe and he shares the same memory as that of the other one. As both are merged into one, they conflict and cause him to bleed as a result. Even Daisy Fitzroy, who sees you as a hero in that timeline, considers you as an imposter, since she has seen your alternate part die with her own eyes.
Hello? Think?
I saw you die, Booker. Saw it with my own eyes.
Fitzroy. Listen, I got you your guns. I'm here for my airship.
But my Booker DeWitt died for the Vox Populi. You either an imposter or a ghost. My Booker DeWitt was a hero to the cause, a story to tell your children. You just complicate the narrative.
So she orders everyone to go after you, shortly after killing Fink, that is. With no other choice at hand and an unhinged Fitzroy on the other end, Elizabeth decides to do what she never did in her lifetime.
This is what needs to be done. You see, the founders ain't nothing but weeds. Cut them down and they just grow back. If you want to get rid of the weed, you gotta pull it up from the root. It's the only way to be...
Elizabeth.
I guess it runs in the family.
Shocked by the terror and realization, she locks herself away and changes herself to try to get rid of the thought that she had done it. And this is where a big hint to his origin was given.
How do you do it?
How do I do what?
Forget. How do you wash away the things that you've done?
You don't. You just learn to live with it.
We soon reach near Colmstock's house, where the main entrance recognizes Elizabeth as Mrs. Colmstock instead, but it won't work since the hand doesn't match. So they have to take it from her grave, but soon after her powers were used against her by bringing her mother back to life thanks to Colmstock's siphons. But overcoming that, we use the spirit to break through the gates and enter Colmstock's home. But we're shortly cut because of Songbird. Elizabeth sacrifices herself to ensure that Booker stays alive and brings Colmstock to an end, but this causes her to accidentally open a portal, taking us to another dimension where we find out that Elizabeth has been going through torture by both Colmstock and Dr. Pettifog, who was made in charge to plant a mind-controlling device into Elizabeth. And in this timeline, we apparently betrayed Elizabeth and never reached out to her on time. This is where we see firsthand of what would happen if we never rescued Elizabeth in the first place, and she remained suffering instead.
As you can see, Booker, the lunatics are running the asylum. They don't even listen to me anymore. All I can do is watch as what I set into motion slides into its terminal stage. It took all I had left in me just to bring you here.
Elizabeth, I don't understand. I heard you screaming. I was coming to get you. Are we...
Here. Take my hand. The seed of the prophet shall sit the throne. and drown in flame the mountains of man. Say what you will about Colmstock. He was a hell of a fortune teller. Wasn't the torture that broke me. Wasn't the indoctrination. It was time. Time rots everything, Booker. Even hope.
It was coming.
Songbird. He always stops you.
Yes, but I would find a way.
No. It's too late for me. I brought you here for your sake. Yours and hers. Here.
The old Elizabeth hands you a note that is a key to win the battle. Only the other Elizabeth would know how to make use of it. With that, she takes us back in time, just before she went far into the trauma, where we take down all the enemies and free her from her torment. After several waves of enemies and finally getting on board the ship where Colmstock resides, we meet him face to face. Neither of them recognize that they are the same person, but the second Colmstock tried triggering Booker. This is where the former killed the latter. Booker denies knowing what happened to Elizabeth's finger, but he starts bleeding, apparently knowing about it, but it's stuck far away in his memory that he doesn't remember much. Soon after, we are raided by the Vox Populi, who still think Colmstock is still alive. Elizabeth now finally understood the meaning of the card and plays the tone in the right instrument, summoning Songbird in our favor. Once we take down the Vox Populi, we also destroy the tower, breaking all the siphons and giving Elizabeth full control of her power, which she teleports us to an underwater city, effectively killing Songbird by drowning it. This underwater city will soon play a crucial role in the next two instances, so I'll talk more about it in detail later on. We then learn how multiple branches of this universe exist, all because of some certain decisions, which is true because at the start, we know how a single decision on baptism can change the multiverse into two people, and that's where we end up right at the start of it, just before you accept the baptism and change your identity. This is where Elizabeth swaps herself out for another version or versions of herself to appear, and the way I can tell is by the necklace. Shortly after rescuing Elizabeth from the tower, the Lutece twins meet up with the two of us and offers us two necklaces to choose from. Regardless of which you choose, she will wear it throughout the whole story of Infinite. This is very similar to a marking, like an indicator that this is our Elizabeth and not to be confused with any other Elizabeths that we may encounter later on. This is why during the final confrontation, Booker asks Elizabeth who she is, which is odd since she has been alongside him the entire game, further proving that this is most likely the other Elizabeth. Now went to those multiple towers to ensure what happens next. Happens in all universes known to her, and that is ensuring that Booker never made Colmstock in the first place.
You take my son.
He's Zachary Colmstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
I'm both.
Andrei Ryanovsky, or better known as Andrew Ryan, born in Russia but thrived in America. His wealth was so large that he saw no one as a competition, but his life wasn't sunshine and rainbows at all. World War, the communist suppression, the workers' retaliation, all these made Ryan categorize the rulers as parasites, one who would bend the country to satisfy their need and greed. But it didn't push them just yet, till the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, that made Ryan to plan on his project. What was once a thought, now he wanted to make it a reality. A place where no normal man could find, no governor could rule, and no god can be worshipped, just him and a handful of the most intelligent people on earth, settling and living the way as they see fit. This project also couldn't be located in just a normal conventional place, but in a place no one would expect it to be, underwater. at a depth of several miles from the surface and several miles from any nearby land. It's not to isolate the citizens from the surface, but to prevent the people from accidentally stumbling upon this hidden civilization. This project later came to be known as Project Rapture. For a time, Rapture was everything Ryan dreamed it would be, a paradise of freedom and prosperity. Rapture experienced tremendous economic progress and solid political stability. As Ryan predicted, citizens on Rapture created a culture of entrepreneurship that was unrivaled, with numerous businesses established and unprecedented scientific advancements, including the discovery of Adam by Brigitte Tenenbaum, the substance that was present by the sea slugs that lived near the ocean rifts of Rapture, which can be altered by the human's DNA, healing them and giving them access to abilities far beyond what a human can achieve, giving birth to plasmids as the active part and gene tonic as the passive part. However, despite this revolutionary discovery and the wonderful benefits it brought along with it, it is mostly disregarded by the citizens of Rapture and Ryan himself, despite several key chair members urging otherwise. However, one person saw the potential of this discovery, Frank Fontaine, someone who was looking for an opportunity to make Rapture much different than what the world currently is. As of now, Rapture is just built upon the brains of all the intelligent people Ryan bought, but not many of them came close to competing with Ryan. Fontaine, being an expert con man, saw this and decided to take his risk. Worst case, he would lose money, but best case, he could rival Ryan himself, if not overtake him at some point. After discussing with Brigitte Tenenbaum about the potential of atoms, he started a business upon this concept called Fontaine Futuristics, bringing in both Tenenbaum and Dr. Suchong, a well-renowned doctor in the science in Rapture, to research and develop more of these plasmids and gene tonics. But because of higher demand, they had to find ways to increase the supply of atom as well. To which, at Fontaine's urging, Brigitte Tenenbaum engineered a way to mass-produce atom in the bodies of hosts. They discovered the only host capable of producing such sufficient amount of atoms was young girls, originating the Little Sisters, who would be genetically altered and mentally conditioned to reclaim Adam from corpses around Rapture. Seeing the limitation now, Fontaine created the Little Sisters Orphanage, a charity which was a front to get parents to willingly give up their children, who would then be turned to Little Sisters to generate Adam. While Brigitte Tenenbaum was responsible for the Little Sisters' physical ability to process Adam from the dead, Suchong was responsible for the mental conditioning given to them, giving them the need to gather the substance from corpse. Despite his obvious disdain towards them, many of the children Suchong experimented on referred to him affectionately as Papa Suchong. Suchong later realized that though the Little Sisters were resistant to physical damage, they still possessed the strength of a small child and needed protection, lest they be harvested prematurely. He was instrumental in the creation of the Big Daddies and the mental conditioning that forced them to guard the Little Sisters at any cost. Several iterations had to be gone through before a successful prototype even came to fruition, which I will get to at some point. While Andrew Ryan saw how Fontaine's business rose to popularity, even competing with his own, rather than trying to compete, he praised it by saying how great it is to see companies being created and competing even at the levels of its own. But that admiration soon turned jealousy because of how people openly spoke about the benefits of Fontaine's over Ryan's. That, paired with his discovery of Fontaine keeping contact with the outer surface, further pushed him to bring his smuggling operation to an end. Ryan ordered investigations into Fontaine and his men. These efforts eventually were successful in destroying the smuggling operation, but Fontaine for a long time remained elusive, always managing to be where the evidence isn't. The frustration of this situation affected Ryan deeply, causing him to use questionable methods to catch the criminals. Despite considerable uproar, Ryan implemented a highly unpopular law, with smuggling being the equivalent of treason, and made the crime punishable by death. But at the same time, he couldn't let all these setbacks hold him back, especially when Rapture is at its peak. So, with his greatest supporters' help, he assigned districts to each of them and even created a mini amusement park that serves as a recreational spot and a place to spread his propaganda on how these parasites work. By populating a city with ambitious experts, opportunities, geniuses, and breakthrough artists, Ryan set up a top-heavy class system. The social conditions resulting from the economic readjustments allowed Frank Fontaine to establish the influential but philosophically undermining Fontaine's Home for the Poor, which provided the destitution in Rapture's free market society. Fontaine used these charity angles to boost his public image in opposition to Ryan's, while at the same time using the unfortunates for medical research. Sometime later, Ryan unknowingly impregnated an Eve's Garden's exotic dancer named Jasmine Jolene. Aware that Ryan had much of Rapture's security and infrastructure control coded to his genetic frequency, Frank Fontaine made arrangements to purchase the embryo from Jolene, who claimed to need the money. Fontaine realized that Jack, as the child was named, could be a powerful tool to access secure areas where only Ryan was permitted. He instructed Suchong to artificially age, brainwash, and train the child, creating an obedient assassin whom he sent to the surface as a sleeper. When Ryan learnt of this betrayal, he personally killed her in a fit of rage. With Ryan's operatives closing in on the smuggling operation, Ryan sought a decisive conclusion to the Fontaine question. But Fontaine refuses to back down and arms up to fight back. After a violent shootout between Ryan's security forces and Fontaine's spliced followers, the operation was a success, and Fontaine was killed in the shootout. Although a victory in the eyes of Rapture and Ryan, it would also mark its own downfall. In the aftermath of Fontaine's perceived death, Ryan took a step that many took to be the betrayal of his own philosophy, the nationalization of Fontaine futuristics. His first step was to create several Vita chambers that would serve as his personal revive unit in case of his injuries overwhelming him. He could enter into these chambers and heal himself almost instantly. These chambers were genetically coded to recognize and heal Ryan only. Although Ryan built Rapture to escape the sort of big government that could take over private industry, Ryan was forced to engage in precisely the same behavior. This move shocked Rapture to the core and proved to be significant in its decline. Even Ryan's long-term friend and core member of Rapture, Bill McDonough, resigned from the Central Council in protest and even attempted to assassinate Ryan, only to fail and have his body hung outside his office alongside several others to send a message of not to mess with Ryan. 2 months later, all those who have been identified as involved in Fontaine's crimes have been arrested and put into Fontaine's department stores, which Ryan had turned into a prison to house them. This further unsettled the citizens of Rapture, as 100 or more people were imprisoned so quickly. At this point, we go back to Bioshock Infinite, more specifically, the first DLC of Infinite, Episode 1 of Burial at Sea, which takes place in Rapture just a few days before the eventual destruction of Rapture. We once again play as Booker DeWitt, but this one isn't the Booker DeWitt we are familiar with. I'll talk more about this person later on. We get a knock on the door, and we are met with Elizabeth, our Elizabeth, thanks to the badge that is present over her. She requests our help in finding a girl named Sally, who she suspects is still alive, despite Booker knowing that she is dead, thanks to Sullivan, who is apparently a friend of Booker and confirmed that by locating her dead body near the docks. But Elizabeth claims otherwise and proves that Sander Cohens knows about this little girl. After meeting Sanders, he agrees to give the information, but in return we must help him fill his canvas with the dance. But since we fail to do so, he electrocutes us, but still decides to help us get to that place, which is Fontaine's legacy right underneath the ocean. Throughout the time, Booker gets flashbacks about certain events that happened to him, which again will come into play later on in the gameplay. At the end of it all, you'll find Sally, the girl that you are looking for, but she is too scared to meet you. Luckily, Elizabeth has the schematics of the vent, so if anything, closing all but the only exhaust vent and turning the heat up will force her to move out. This doesn't sit right with Booker, but he has no choice. After closing all the vents and turning the heat up, forcing the child out of there, only to be revealed that she has become a little sister. And soon she calls upon the Big Daddy, as they call these machines, for a final showdown. Once taken down, Booker resumes trying to get to her, until
You're hurting her! She's not your child!
She is mine!
Let her go! Let her go!
She's mine! Shut it down! Shut down the machine!
You've got to pull her through!
Shut down the machine!
No, she's not through!
Shut it down!
this Booker is different and isn't really Booker but Colmstock. His sole reason of survival is because of him moving to Rapture and renouncing his spiritual ways and back to his detective work in a new place, which is why he was the last remaining Colmstock left to be taken down for the deed to be completed. And just like before, our Elizabeth is once again swapped out for another one, proving that the original Elizabeth is more like a time guard in Loki series, making sure everything goes well in order.
Elizabeth. Child. I am so sorry.
No, you're not. But you're about to be.
This plays right after episode 1, but it starts by showing another Elizabeth, this one fulfilling her dream of being in Paris, before being haunted by the memories of Sally and her torture method. As she wakes up from her unconscious state, she finds a new man who seems to be in control of this place, Atlas, the new leader of those who were banished from this prison from following Frank Fontaine and his beliefs. Because of her hallucinations, she started imagining Booker giving her advice on what to say next and how to avoid problems. You understand that you aren't supposed to be here. You were brought here out of your dream place. You don't have your powers as usual, so you can't see through different realities or worlds or possibilities. You're just a normal girl, with the conscious of everything that happened here, despite you just being brought from another place. And very soon you find out why.
Let me ask you a question. You feeling like yourself, Elizabeth?
I feel strange and small. I can't see the doors. What's behind the doors? I can't see the future. I can't even see any tears. Oh my God. Stay away from me. Booker. No, please don't. I died here. I was killed by that. Stay away from me! Then how am I here? How can I be dead in this world and yet... My finger. What am I? Huh? I don't understand.
If we're going to end up in the same place, it doesn't harm and enjoy the ride.
Are you being cute?
I've come round to your way of thinking.
Have you?
Yes. I do believe one can change things, but after all the bother, one often wishes that one had not.
You're a fatalist.
A physicist.
A fatalist.
So was Newton, especially when it came to apples falling from trees. They always contrived to land with a splat. She left the child to rot.
Are you implying she's the apple?
I'm implying that she did not fall far from the tree.
And now she wants to go back.
I need to go back. To fix what I broke.
Back to where she has no right to be.
Back to where she doesn't belong.
Doesn't belong? Wait, what do you mean?
Do you want to tell her brother, or shall I?
Because I died.
There are rules. us.
Even for one such as you.
She'll forget.
All the doors.
And what's behind all doors?
All closed to her now.
She'll be just like the rest of us.
Forgetting the past.
The present.
The future.
I'd wager she won't even remember this conversation. We've arrived. You're trading omniscience and croissants for death and mildew.
I left Sally to rot. For what? So I could punish Colmstock? He was trying to help her, to save her, and I don't make that right.
We all have our crosses to bear.
But there is a thin line between a martyr and a fool.
Lutesses warned me that if I came back here, I would collapse.
Collapse?
From a quantum superposition to just me.
Quantum what?
I've changed, Booker. No tears, no cause, no. Just a normal girl. With a normal pinky. If I can't open tears, I'm never leaving here, am I? I'm never going back to Paris. You're just what? You're just the fragments of my memory telling me what my future holds?
You decided to come here, Elizabeth. You knew that meant. Only option as I see it is to trust yourself. Find Suchong.
This Elizabeth is not the same from episode 1, but she carries the knowledge of what happens here. Throughout the gameplay, one thing stands out the most. It's more of a stealth than the combat. Enemies are not killed but rather knocked unconscious. Not sure why the sudden change in direction, cause they can just carry on with the same tone, but I doubt it would make any difference. But I think it's mainly to show how Elizabeth is powerless against these enemies. And it's mainly to also show that Elizabeth isn't someone who favors violence. Especially with her power taken away from her, she also has no other choice. At some point after finding out Suchong's hideout, we figure that this Suchong knows about the other dimension about Columbia, similar to what we discussed earlier. He knows not just about Columbia, he also knows about Booker and Elizabeth, which further proves how he manages to find those details. After confronting Suchong, decoding some script and fixing the Lutece particle, we make our way to the First Lady airship for the particle lift system, which helps bring the building from the depths of Rapture. But Suchong had other plans and wanted something in return to even the odds. With no choice but to do so, we set on our journey. We are also given a small glimpse of Daisy Fitzroy, knowing what is going to happen to her soon.
Hurt the boy. I will see Fink and Colmstock burn, but I will not hold the son to account for the deeds of his father.
You misunderstood us.
We never asked you to harm the child.
Nor did we promise that yours would be the hand that would set Colmstock's world afire.
A famous man once said,
And a famous man shall say,
I may reach the mountaintop,
but I fear I shall never visit the valley below.
But you mean I won't live to see them? No.
It's up to you what matters more.
Your part in the play?
Or the play itself.
Someone is coming.
She'll arrive, a girl.
She must leave, a woman.
And what makes the difference between a girl and a woman?
Blood.
Your part in the play.
Or the play itself.
Turn her into a killer? How?
Give the girl no choice.
And she will be forced to make one.
Soon. And along with that, the mystery of how Songbird was assigned to become her guardian was also known. As discussed earlier, it first started as an experiment between realities and then through an accident. There's even a nice Easter egg for us to seeing the past version of Booker and Elizabeth making their way into the lower parts of Fink Industries. Eventually we find what Suchong wanted, and he races back to the portal only to be sabotaged once the deal is made.
Pretty lady put hair sample in tube. Then, business is finished.
What's going on out there?
Bloodshed, violence. but not relevant to our arrangement.
Suchong, we had a deal, now open.
Do you know what they call someone who enters a man's home uninvited? A thief. And I do not remember inviting you into my city.
I had a deal with Suchong.
Suchong is my employee. It was not a deal he was authorized to make.
What do you want?
I granted Atlas and his thugs asylum. You serve those same men in a desire to escape from my generosity. If they shall not have asylum, then they shall have liquidation. Give a parasite an ounce of charity. He'll demand a pound.
I'm just looking for a girl that was taken from me. A little sister.
I don't claim to understand what you are, but I know that you are special. There is business we can do together. And so I give you a choice. Work for me or die with Atlas.
I'm not going anywhere without that girl.
If it's a little sister you want, that shouldn't stand in the way of commerce. I've got dozens of them.
I won't leave without her.
My men stand ready to take down the door. In 60 seconds, they will enter the room. They will either treat you as a valued employee of Ryan Industries, or as a thief in the night.
As time progresses, Ryan states his philosophy and claims Atlas is not to be trusted in deals while he is. Yet despite all these, we press on, going to Frank Fontaine's office to place the particle lift system and bring the building to Rapture. But as Ryan stated, Atlas didn't hold on his part. After torturing us for a bit and nearly doing the same for Sally, we are given a vision of where Atlas needs is located, conveniently in a heavily guarded place. This is also where we learn about how Big Daddies and Little Sisters survive together, as they aren't just designed to be protectors but to also receive Adam from the sisters as a form of payment to keep them alive and healthy. Just across the room, we meet Suchong with an encrypted code on the table.
To allow for Get away, you filthy little shit! What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
There's the ace.
After retrieving the code, however, as expected, Atlas doesn't hold on his side and kills Elizabeth.
I'm not the rube, Atlas. You are. We both know what happens next. Just get it over with.
Well, love, if you insist.
And what would happen after her death was not just the fall of one person, but the collapse of an entire ideology and vision. A war that changed the fate of two masterminds, and the return of this so-called ace. After Atlas and his men entered Rapture, it spiraled into a civil war, with Ryan starting at Kashmir restaurant, where a sudden assault from Atlas had erupted. Ryan was supposed to be there, but was caught up with work and couldn't make it over. But what followed later was several days, if not weeks or even months, of conflicts between the two, resulting in hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent lives claimed in the conflict. Many believed Ryan to be a man of philosophy and not someone of war, so they expected him to at least calm the situation down and try to address Atlas and his followers in a more mature manner. However, Ryan did everything but those, which led to the people of Rapture losing their hope and trust in him. But what Ryan did as his last resort against Atlas was the last straw of betrayal against everyone. Originally proposed by Suchong, claiming that since plasmids and gene tonics played a very crucial role in this war, why not sabotage it by adding chemicals that would make a person mentally unstable and prevent them from being sane? Initially it was declined, but because of the current situation, he agreed to it. This act alone caused almost all of Rapture to go against Ryan, even his own lover. Diane McCock also sided with Atlas after a series of acts that Ryan took to protect his kingdom. These alterations to both the plasmids and genes proved decisive in the turning of tide of civil war in Ryan's favor. Atlas, with his new situation, now desperate and with few followers who are still sane and not affected to Ryan's phenomena, were forced to use this ace in the hole. We now move to a new protagonist, a faceless and speechless one. Yet there is more to him than just that. He was on a plane when out of nowhere it got taken down. He was only one to survive the plane crash. Right next to it is a lighthouse, perfect for signaling help, but from what we experienced till now, a lighthouse is anything but a signal for help. When we enter inside, we realize that it serves as an entry point to Rapture, and using the bathysphere, which is an underwater submersible, we enter Rapture, not at its prime because of the Civil War, but still retaining its outer appearance for its visitors. After arriving, we get to see what state Rapture is in. Total destruction, with splices everywhere. Because of the alteration in plasmids, they are almost completely unstable in what they do and where they go. But just on the radio, a familiar voice is heard.
Would you kindly pick up that show on your radio? I don't know how you survived that plane crash, but I've never been one to question Providence. I'm Atlas, and I aim to keep you alive. Now keep on moving. We're gonna have to get you to higher ground. Take a deep breath and step out of the bathysphere. I won't leave you twisting in the wind. We're gonna need to draw out of hiding, but you're gonna have to trust me.
Atlas returns to guide you through Rapture, while also slowly using you to help out his nefarious activities. He claims he has a family that is stuck in some part of Rapture. If we could help him out, then Atlas could help return the favor as well. While traversing through, we find ourselves at a dead end, which we will need a key from Dr. Steinhardt, a plastic surgeon in Rapture whose ways of making one pretty is interesting to say the least.
What can I do with this one, Aphrodite? She won't stay still! I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong! That one, too fat! This one, too tall! This one, too symmetrical! No! What's this, goddess? An intruder! He is ugly! 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 Look at you!
But nonetheless, we take him down and use his key to progress further, where we meet Tenenbaum.
Stay away from her, or it is you who will be shot next.
Easy now, Doctor. He's just looking for a wee bit of Adam. Just enough to get by.
I'll not have him hurt my little ones.
It's okay, lad. That's not a child. Not anymore, it ain't. Dr. Tenenbaum saw to that.
Bitte do not hurt her. Have you no heart?
Aye, that's a pretty sermon coming from the guru. Cooked up them creatures in the first place. Took fine little girls and turned them into that.
Bastards!
To me, Boyle, you won't survive without the Adam those things are carrying. Are you prepared to trade your life, the lives of my wife and child, for Tenenbaum's Frankenstein?
Here! There is another. Use this. Free them from their torment. I will make it
be worth your while. Somehow.
This is our first opportunity to harvest Adam, which acts as currency in this game to unlock more gene tonics and plasmids. When we corner a little sister, we have two options: harvest her entire body for more Adam, or retrieve enough to turn her back to human, but you will get less, as expected. My advice is the latter, since you won't have trouble collecting much, and you will gain the trust of Tenenbaum as well when you do that, which will play a crucial role later on. Once you reach Fountain Fisheries, you encounter Peach Wilkins, who requests you to find a research camera, and only then will he allow you inside, mainly so that he can build a trust with you. A research camera also helps you out by being able to deal more damage to an enemy by knowing its weak spot, and also gives you rewards as well for fully researching a particular enemy. But despite doing that and giving you access to these fisheries, he turns against you, yet you still win against him. Further down the road, Atlas starts lore dumping on how he loves his wife and son and how much they mean the world to him, and he couldn't risk losing them. At the submarine bay, where apparently Atlas's family is being held captive, all we have to do is free the submarine, and Atlas rushes in to save them, only for Ryan to sabotage the rescue and blow the submarine, killing Atlas's family within.
You ooze in like an assassin, and then you try to sneak out like a thief. You're no CIA spook. Who are you? Why have you come here? There's two ways to deal with a mystery. Uncover it, or eliminate it.
Get out! Get out and get to Arcadia! Jesus Christ!
One interesting thing of note is that the Big Daddy isn't hostile by default. When they are on their own, they don't engage in combat, just wander aimlessly in search of a little sister. Only in the presence of the little sister do they become hostile, but it would only shove you away and not harm you, unless if provoked. This key concept helps us ease through the levels with no issues, and also adds more lore to these machines who once toiled to make Rapture possible. We enter Arcadia, the heart of Rapture, and it is also the one that supplies oxygen to all of Rapture, to which Ryan tries to kill the tree, supplying them with poison. Shows that even with Ryan's philosophy, he's ready to go to an extent of killing all of Rapture just so his vision can be fulfilled. We meet Julia Langford, who is in charge of Arcadia, and she is willing to help us despite being associated with Ryan, and that in the end bites her at the back. But her death helped us create a solution to stop the trees from dying. Soon after, we find ourselves at Fort Frolic to retrieve the keys to Ryan's place. The only issue is that the key is with Sander Cohens, the same lunatic artist whom we first saw in episode 1. And as expected, he is still deranged after all these years. The one advantage that Cohens is he isn't someone who wants to fight us. More so, he is willing to help us if we help him out. This time, he requests a picture of 3 known members in the Fort Frolic, who are still alive and once affiliated with them, but betrayed him at the end, so he wants them dead, so he can hang their pictures on his art and call it a masterpiece. Yeah, despite all these years, his deranged ways have only gotten worse, but his reward in the end was worth the trouble. We enter Eve Garden, where we see the glimpse of flashbacks from Jasmine Jolene, as you would expect, already impregnated by Ryan and carrying Jack, the unborn son. This gives us a few flashbacks that would become relevant. After finishing the masterpiece, the madman himself shows up and willingly gives us what we need. And with the last piece in hand, we head to the main building where Ryan resides. But before that, we must take down his defenses so he would have nothing apart from his army of splicers against us. Right outside Ryan's office, as mentioned prior, are all the members who are attempted to assassinate Ryan. We now head to the core of the building, the one powering the whole system Ryan had built it on. After overriding it with the makeshift bomb, we now realize that Ryan has set the core to self-destruct, basically destroying all of Rapture, but before that he wants to meet us and discuss some stuffs. And this is where we realize we weren't saving Rapture from Ryan, we were just taking it away from him, giving it to someone much more insane.
The assassin
become my final defense. And now he's come to murder me. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. You think you have memories. A farm. A family. An airplane. A crash. And then this place. Was there really a family? Did that airplane crash? Or was it hijacked? Forced down. Forced down by something less than a man, something bred to sleepwalk through life until they are activated by a simple phrase spoken by their kindly master. Was a man sent to kill, or a slave? A man chooses. A slave obeys. Come in. Stop, would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit, would you kindly? Stand, would you kindly? Run! Stop! Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses! A slave obeys! Obey!
Hurry now! Grab Ryan's genetic key! Now would you kindly put it in that goddamn machine?
Our character name is Jack. Jack Ryan. The illegitimate son is our protagonist. The one who was sold to an embryo to Tenenbaum and Fontaine was us. The one who Sochong programmed to be a deadly assassin was us. The plane crashed? It happened because of an instruction. The ace in the hole, it was the key to it all. Atlas? Well, there was never really an Atlas in the first place. It was just a persona to fool Ryan into thinking that he had won his war, when his war has never come to an end in the first place. And how about the Vita chambers? Simple enough. Since we are the son of Ryan himself, our genetic structure matches just enough for the machines to recognize as Ryan himself. That's why Atlas, or Fontaine as we now know him as, was very keen on bringing us back and raising us initially, since genetically he can be identified as Ryan. He can walk through extremely confidential areas that only Ryan would have access to. We were only sent away from Rapture to act as a different person, filled with different memories, so that the plan can come to play when the time's right. Especially when Fontaine started making shipments to and from the surface illegally without authorization. A lot of planning was done for this very moment. Jack was on the plane, because according to the note, he was going to see his cousins in England. What he failed to take note of was the eventual location of the plane would fly right above a particular location that would activate the whole sequence. We wake up from our long slumber to a hideout at Tenenbaum's place, where she explains how we were born and created in the first place. She also manages to rewrite our brains so we won't be susceptible to Fontaine's commands. Well, at least most of it, because there are still some that can cause us to suffer. In order to completely get rid of these effects, we need to find an antidote, something which Tenenbaum only heard through rumors but isn't sure herself. After visiting Sochong's place, the rumors were true. Lot 192, the antidote to turn Jack into a normal human, a part of which is located in Tenenbaum's office, only for that place to be completely turned down. Since Fontaine is behind all of this, the lot must be at his office. Well, at least a part of it, cause the dosage did remove the mind-controlling effects, but it affected the use of plasmids, being random at times without control. The second one is located in Sochong's lab, in the exact place where he was killed. This time we are completely free from his control and are ready to face him one more time. But Fontaine locks itself in the main chamber, and the only way to enter is if a person that is a Big Daddy if that person is a Big Daddy, which we have to transform into by finding parts of a Big Daddy and combining them into one. Then, with the help of a little sister, we enter Proving Grounds, where we meet face to face with Fontaine. He has overdosed himself with Adam, making him near indestructible and extremely powerful, but nevertheless, you still manage to take him down, with the help of those little sisters.
What you was capable of? Even that life you thought you had? That was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head. Now if you don't call that family, I know what is! And now...
And this is where the ending changes depending on how you dealt with the little sisters. In the good ending, where he saved all of the little sisters, they offered the city to Jack, but to be the next ruler. But instead, Jack did the opposite, let the city go into the ruin while he rescued the little sisters from their torment. They all lived a normal life on the surface, while Jack got to live a happy life as well. In the bad ending, where he killed all the little sisters, they offered the city to Jack, and not only did he decide to take control of it, but he also goes rampart, heading towards the surface and killing everyone there for no reason. Just pure chaos, a mindless assassin, just like how they initially designed him to be. And Tenenbaum's narration over this proves that she is angry at the decision, how she regrets creating you in the first place. In the secret ending, however, where you do a bit of both, harvest some and save some, that still gives the same scene from the bad ending. But Tenenbaum's narration over this is disappointing. She appreciates that you saved some, but wishes you saved most, if not all of them. But regardless of which ending you get, Rapture from here will be left to rot, and what happens next, only time can tell.
And in the end, what was your reward? You never said, but I think I know. A family.
With Rapture now left to ruins, there are still many people trapped underneath, one of which is Sophia Lamb, the psychiatrist, with one whom battled in debate with Ryan several times and has won many times as well, only to be sent to the penal to the prison. It turns out she was rallying up those who were around her as well. Even Sinclair, who was just set to watch over her, soon started working with her, using her help to raise an army, while also selecting some of her followers to be sent to then alive Suchong for plasmids and atom testing. She also had a daughter named Eleanor, who she believed would carry on her legacy from then onwards, isolating her from others and tutoring her herself, so she would be the exact copy of herself. However, this was before she was sent to the prison, as once she was sentenced, Eleanor was assigned to the care of Grace Holloway, as she was among the closest followers of Lamb, and her long desire to cradle a child made her a suitable caretaker to Eleanor. At the same time, a man named Stanley, who was associated with Sinclair for knowing too much details about his business, was also assigned to take over Dinosaur's Park, which was Sophia Lamb's favorite place to be at. So as expected, Eleanor saw what was happening there, as Stanley started throwing parties at the expense of Lamb and making a mess out of the place. She also came to find out that Stanley was Ryan's spy, sent out to find all the weakness of Sinclair and Lamb, and was among the reason why Lamb was in the prison in the first place. So she threatened Stanley that she would report to Lamb about this. But to prevent this from ever happening, she was captured and sold to the Little Sisters orphanage, thinking that her time there would mean he could continue on like nothing happened. What he failed to note was that this same orphanage was the one that also converted these young girls into Little Sisters as we know them now. Stanley was horrified after learning about this, and with Lamb now out of prison and in power, Stanley had no other choice but to keep his voice down and work for Lamb, so he could clear his name from the deed. Since all of this happened during the initial stages of creating Little Sisters, it was also the time where they started designing and implementing the Big Daddies to be the sole protector of them. And for that to happen, they had to go through several iterations, with the first set of Big Daddies labeled as the Alpha series. They once again took people from the prison thanks to Lamb and created those Big Daddies. Each Big Daddy is hard-coded to protect one and only one little sister that is assigned to it. If that little sister dies, its purpose is no more. In fact, they got so attached that even after altering their entire conscience and organs around, they emitted emotions like sadness and even anger for failing their sole purpose. Although it was a success, it failed in one aspect. They are hesitant to protect other little sisters, other than the ones that they are assigned to. Among those Big Daddies volunteer is a man commonly known as Johnny Topside, as he originally entered Rapture without no one's notice from the surface. He is discovered by Stanley, and despite his visit not being intentional, Stanley was more trusted to Ryan than the outsider, so he too was also sent to the prison, and as expected, he was sent to be transformed into the Big Daddy. And this time, after several failed attempts, this particular one was a success, perfectly pairing with the little sister it was assigned to, which marked a milestone in the Alpha series and made many others based on this particular model. So to keep it distinct from others, they decided to name it Subject Delta, and the little sister assigned to him, well, it was Eleanor Lamb. And for a while, things were going the usual for the two. Eleanor would gather the atom, while Delta would stand guard beside her. They also formed a great father-daughter pair, But all of this would come to an end. Right after Lamb's release, she paints Delta as the bad person, claiming he took Eleanor from her caretaker during her captivity and forcefully made her her little sister. This fueled rage amongst her supporters, and now they are on the hunt for Subject Delta. With Eleanor now back to Lamb's care, she worked with Dr. Alexander to create a cure for her, to help her come back to her normal self. And while it did work, it didn't completely remove the bond between the two. As such, Eleanor can communicate with us through some form of telekinesis, which works massively in our favor, as Eleanor still longed to be back with Subject Delta, so much that she contacted Tenenbaum to come back to Rapture and help Delta come to life and remove the psychological conditioning that is imprinted in Delta's mind. After our revival, we only have one task in mind for which we must do anything by any means necessary to get it: find Eleanor Lamb. And throughout our traversal, we encounter a new enemy, the Big Sister. These are formed after the little sisters grow up to become teenagers or adult women. The high amount of Adam present in their body causes them to grow abnormally large in size and give them immense strength and speed. Thus, these kinds are reprogrammed to protect the Adam in particular from people who are trying to steal it. Normally, it won't target Big Daddies because of the relation the little sisters share with it, but the ones that don't have a bond are instantly considered a target. We get in touch with Tenenbaum, who reveals to us that the Big Sisters are also tasked to gather Little Sisters from the surface to Rapture, so the works of the Little Sister can continue on to the next generation and many more generations to come. Something which Tenenbaum cannot allow, as it is her who started it all and she wants to end it as well. And I think Tenenbaum perfectly sums up who we exactly are and how our bond with Eleanor will only mean harm to us.
Now, here is what the children tell me. You are a very old Big Daddy, bonded for life to a single little one. When you are apart for too long, your body begins to shut down like a coma. As long as the girl is in the Rapture, you are trapped here as well. The name of your little one is Eleanor Lamb, daughter of Sophia. She is kept at Fontaine Futuristics on the other side of the city. You must go and save her before it is too late.
As we fight hordes of splicers and men alike, we are then linked with Sinclair, who is willing to help us as he guides us through the map, telling us what to find and where to find and to progress further. And to get to that specific plasmid, which is the incinerate, we need the help of a little sister, who is being guarded by the more modern Big Daddies, also known as bouncers. Unlike the old model, they are permanently stuck into that suit, so there's no way of removing it off, unlike the Alpha series that had the option to remove it off. They are also multi-purpose as well. When not guarding a little sister, they are sent to perform maintenance work around Rapture. And they aren't tied to a specific little sister either. As long as the little sister is present, they can work together. And like before, with the little sister in your possession, you can either harvest her completely for more Adam, or transform her to human and take less Adam, like last time as well. There are consequences, but this one takes it a whole step further, which I'll get to later on. As we proceed by clearing hordes of enemies and claiming plasmid for our battle further on, we encounter Grace Holloway. As expected, she is still mad at you, thinking you are the reason Eleanor was turned into a little sister. But you will have to prove her wrong, as you reach to her office to collect the key needed to proceed further. You come face to face with her, as she stands unarmed and ready to accept the fate of her getting killed. This is where her fate is in your hands. You can either kill her, or you can just take the key and move on. This also affects how the ending plays, so decisions play a very crucial role this time. Saving Grace would make her rethink about everything. Whether are you just a machine, or is there a human inside there? Whether Lamb was right all along, or was she brainwashing her? And whether was it really you who took Eleanor away from her, or did someone else did and you were falsely blamed for it? This gains her as our only ally. This gains her as our ally, and she sends in her army bots to help us progress further. While traveling through the other section, we are stopped by Simon Wales, or better known as Father Wales, someone who's willing to die for Eleanor, thanks to his beliefs. Yet that doesn't stop you as you break into his church and kill him once and for all. Then we make our way to Dionysus Park, where Stanley Poe resides. Yes, the same Stanley who's responsible for turning Eleanor into a little sister. The more you progress, the more backstory you get of both you and Stanley Poe, and what he did to Eleanor, and why he flooded the dinosaur parks, and how you eventually became Subject Delta. After all this, you make your way back to Stanley, only to realize that the Lamb knew about Stanley's deeds and have forgiven him, and lets you know that it's because of him we are Subject Delta. Like before, you are presented with a choice of either killing Stanley Poe or letting him go. Unlike Grace, he offers no upsides, but again, the decision plays a key role in this end. Once again, we access a secret entry from the fuel pump to meet someone named Gil Alexander, who was the madman who found the cure for Eleanor and was also responsible for bonding you and Eleanor in the first place. It seems that he was willing to give himself up for the greater part of research, but things didn't go so well, so he recorded himself in advance, teaching how to interact with his current self and how to kill him, which is heavily stressed in this recording.
Sophia and I knew that to create the first true utopian would come at a high cost, my friend. We needed someone to be host to all that Adam, Rapture's finest minds, a willing subject, that is to say, myself. Whatever you may have seen inside the tank, that was indeed me. I fear the fate of Eleanor Lamb will be less physical, but no less grotesque. This tank for deep-sea life is the ideal way to dispose of me. But first, you must retrieve enough adamant-fused plant life to lure me out. The slugs feed on the stuff, and it's all I seem to want now. I've left a sample here, so you know what to look for.
And we can see why, especially in that form, where even light does no good to him. One can be tempted to kill him as a form of mercy, to relieve him from his pain so he can rest at ease. But again, even this decision plays a key role at the end of the game. At long last, we meet Lamb face to face as Eleanor lies in front of us, still in some sort of trance, with only a short distance between us and them. Lamb tries to throw all that she has at the moment against Delta, but when all that fails, she does the one thing that can guarantee killing Delta, killing Eleanor. But luckily Eleanor survives, but you are strapped, and she has also severed the bond between you both, so pretty much you surviving is only a matter of luck. Yet, despite this, she assigns a little sister to you, so you can take control of her and free Eleanor. It's at this point where we see what a little sister sees. Everything is painted to look pleasing to a child's eye. Even the dead body, which is used to extract Adam, is painted like an angel, so they don't get the picture of them extracting from a dead body. Even large suits like the big sister armor is painted like a wedding gown, giving off the wolf in sheep's clothing's perspective. All to ensure that the little sister enjoys what she does and not feel guilty of it. Nevertheless, you manage to save Eleanor and she becomes a big sister to save you and leave Rapture for good. But Lamb isn't having it and decides to destroy Rapture once and for all, killing anyone and everyone within. And she paints it as a sacrifice necessary to take down Delta. But just as before we do that, we need to find Sinclair as he is nowhere to be found after we entered Eleanor's chamber. But as we find him, he is only Sinclair consciously, but under that is the control of Lamb, and he begs us to take his lifeboat to safety, but before that he requests us to kill him, just so he doesn't have to deal with serving Lamb.
Now now, Father. I'm afraid that ending the lockdown means releasing all the prisoners.
At the end, they manage to escape Rapture as it collapses. It's at this point where Eleanor, depending on what your decisions were throughout the game, she would either kill Lamb or spare her, depending on what she thinks about evil people, and the little sisters you either killed or saved will also play a role, as in the end, they will comfort Eleanor and make her feel not alone, whereas killing them makes Eleanor ready to destroy the world with her power. But no matter what ending you get, Delta always dies. But his memories and presence will always stay with Eleanor, mainly because of the amount of damage it received, and the bond between them being severed long back was the final nail in the coffin.
If utopia is not a place, but people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change. And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
While all of this is happening on one side of Rapture, on the other side something similar was also happening. We take control of Subject Sigma. It's unclear who specifically he is, but all we know is he's trying to breach the Thinker, an advanced AI model that can predict events of the future and makes precise calculations at the speed of thought. Yes, this game knew the capabilities of AI long before the AI boom. It was also created by Charles Milton Porter and hosted by Reed Wolf, who runs this Rapture Central Computing, designed to automate various calculations such as atmospheric pressure, buoyancy, and many more to ensure Rapture stays intact. Despite these capabilities, Reed decides to use it for his own personal gain, even using less ethical means to ensure that he is satisfied with the gains. This doesn't sit right with Charles, as he wanted the Thinker to have more of a human-like behavior, while Reed wanted the Thinker to be more advanced and more machine with no emotion. And with the added use of Adam to a great extent, he frames Charles by creating a fake audio log that recreates Charles' voice, mentioning how he's going to join the Fontaine and help his cause, and submitting this to Ryan. Ryan, not too pleased with this, barred Charles to the prison. This is where Subject Sigma arrives, to retrieve the hard code of the Thinker and to bring it back to Charles. Throughout the time, we wreak havoc through the company. Reed still relies on Thinker's equation, predicting what you can and what would do next, often stopping you in tracks just to make sure the Thinker's equation comes about right. This equation he keeps talking about is known to accurately predict almost anything in the near future, and that is the only equation that is left of Reed to acquire. But as he does so, he notices some similar pattern scribbling on the floor in his theory that Subject Sigma could be Charles himself, mainly because of those who were caught and sent to the prison often never came out as themselves but as a Big Daddy or a Splicer, but isn't too sure unless if the Thinker confirms it. But just as we were about to, Reed meets us face to face for a final showdown. After we take down Reed and reactivate the Thinker, the truth is soon revealed.
Mainframe reactivated. Confirming user's genetic identity. Genetic identity confirmed. Alpha Series. Subject Sigma. Former identity. Charles Milton Porter.
Welcome back.
Assistant. Ending personality duplication. Subject Charles Milton Porter.
You see now why I let the machine speak for you, Mr. Porter. We needed a voice that would be familiar, comforting, your own. With that copy of the Thinker's programming, we may return to the surface and use it to restore you to the man you once were. Please, collect the printout and meet me at your bathysphere dock. Take your time, Mr. Porter. I will be waiting.
The Thinker was so advanced that it replicated our own voice, so it gives a sense of assurance that it knows what it's doing, and it worked, mainly because of how Charles trained the thinker to think into perfectly recreating someone's voice of its own. Initially, before entering Rapture, he was married to Perla, and they were living happily in London until a hail of bombings took place, one of which killed Perla. This left a huge gap in Charles' life, like a puzzle piece that is missing from the complete picture, and to fill that, he trained Thinker to replicate Perla's voice and behavior. And while he was stunned by the result, he also couldn't fathom doing such thing, filling the void of his late wife with an impersonator. So he put an end to it, but the Thinker has the memory retained, so it could learn Charles' voice and help aid him in an escape. After a while, we meet Tenenbaum, who was helping us all along by telling the Thinker what to do to save Charles, and she discusses that there is more work that needs to be done. Once at the surface, he was able to revert himself back to human thanks to Tenenbaum, and this time accepts fate and lets Pearl go from his mind, easing his pain and saying his last goodbyes to her before venturing on to wherever fate leads him to. With Rapture destroyed and Columbia atomized from all of these ideologies and theories that these inventors have came up with, they fail to include one thing: people are never in union of a thought. There will always be clashes, there will always be rebellion, there will always be backlash, and what makes a good inventor is addressing these issues and resolving them at the earliest. Most of them either retaliate back or accept death as their payment instead. And it also brings us, the player, to a choice based on moral conscience. We are often faced with people who framed us, betrayed us, abandoned us, and after all this, when they are defenseless against us, what do? Do we kill them as revenge? Or do we forgive them for they didn't know what they were doing is wrong or unjust? It's honestly a hard decision to make, as both have their ups and downs. And that's what Bioshock, especially Bioshock 2, perfectly nails it. The consequences and the repercussions of a choice, based on what people see. And many times, it paints a picture of forgiveness, kindness, and mercy being the key to win a battle. It was honestly a roller coaster of philosophy that often contradicted each other, but also made more sense as time went on. And with Bioshock 4 being rumored across the corner, I really can't wait to see what it has to offer.